friends and other friends, Facebook friends. I've noticed that not everybody that's your friend on Facebook is your friend. You might have noticed that too. But anyway, welcome to Chinwag 3, Weird and Weirder. Before I get into that, a little bit of introduction. Last week we did talking about being weird. What's that like? Week before that talked about some goals. It's the beginning of the year, and you can see all those on my Facebook page or YouTube channel under the title Chinwags. I've been getting asked by a lot of people, what's a chinwag? And it's when your chin is wagging up and down. It means you're talking. People call them live chats. I thought I would go with a chinwag. Be a little different and a little curious, obviously, for some people, to try to get you engaged. So, and I'm doing them because a friend of mine encouraged me that I should. I had another friend who confirmed that when he said, well, you'd be good at a chinwag. And he's known me since I was 12, so he would know. But anyway, everybody else is doing it. So I thought, well, why not? I've got a couple of friends saying that I should just get on here and talk a little bit about whatever. So anyway, send me, if you like, topics that you'd like to chinwag about. I don't do politics very much, but if you want to talk about something Bible related, God related, Jesus related, that kind of thing, go for it. Send me a topic, send me a text or a message or something like that. Maybe I'll do a chinwag about it in the future. But anyway, last couple of weeks has been fun for me. I hope if you've seen it before, you've enjoyed it. But anyway, I want to talk this week about, since I talked about being weird last week, I want to keep these things short. I'm going to talk about being weirder. And so I'm going to call this one Weird and Weirder. And I got to thinking about it a couple of weeks back about who says that what weird is. I mean, obviously there are some people who are just a bit creepy and a bit detached, and I'm not talking about that, but there's a lot of things that we call weird, and it's actually just because it's different maybe to me, or kind of to the majority perhaps, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. And I think a lot of times we associate that we're, I don't know, for whatever reason, defensive when people are different to us. We try to marginalize them a bit and call them weird. And there's been a lot of weird people over history that have done amazing things. And it's funny because what's weird now might not be a year from now, or 5 years, 10 years, maybe a generation from now. And so we think about this. I was just looking up for, I did a little bit of a search online to see who, excuse me, who has been considered weird that now we kind of celebrate, and there's quite a lot of them. Walt Disney was one of them. He got fired from the Kansas City Star in 1990 because the editor said, get this, Walt Disney lacked imagination and had no good ideas. So he was too boring, I suppose, or I don't know what you would have called it, but imagine that. Walt Disney lacked imagination and had no good ideas. I've been to Disney a couple of times in Florida, and I'm just taken aback by the imagination and how amazing it is, and how kids love it and families love it. And but at one time Walt Disney, I suppose, by this expert, was likened to being too weird. And in fact, I heard somebody a long time ago say that an expert, you can break that word expert down to two things. An X is a has-been, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. No, not all experts are bad, but in this case, an expert decided Walt Disney was too weird and sacked him. I think that's just, well, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? Here's another one, Oprah Winfrey. At one time, she was a evening news reporter, and she got fired apparently because she couldn't detach her emotions from her stories. So the producer of a Baltimore TV station fired her for it. And isn't that the kind of thing now that Oprah really is famous for, is her personal or personable attachment to people's stories, to stories that she's gotten interested and engaged in, and she's helped a bunch of people. So So there's another weirdo, right? She was too emotional. And usually when we're tagging people as being weird, were saying they're too something. They're too much of something. Like Walt Disney, I don't know, maybe he was too boring. In this case, Oprah Winfrey to her boss was too emotional. Here's another one. After a performance at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Elvis Presley, the concert manager, said he was better off driving a truck because Elvis was a truck driver at one time, and this manager said he was better off being a truck driver than a singer. So I suppose he was also too boring or something, or too untalented maybe, or I don't know. And maybe he sang out of tune that night. Who knows? But anyway, Elvis. I mean, wow, what amazing, pioneer music and all that. And here's one. Another one. Vincent Van Gogh, depending where you come from, Van Gogh or Van Gogh. But when he was alive, he actually didn't get much notoriety for the work that he did. He only sold one of his paintings, I think, and it was to his friend for a really small amount. And his work only became after his life. He never even saw his own success. And now some of his paintings, of course, are worth millions. And he was too crazy, Vincent Van Gogh. Weird, right? And here's the last one I want to mention, because you can Google this and there's lots of them. People who are discredited as being just out there. Albert Einstein. I mean, I mentioned him last week. I mean, just look at his hair. But he did not speak until he was 4 years old. Albert Einstein, think about that. Didn't speak till he was 4. He didn't read until he was 7. And then he got expelled from his school because I guess he was too stupid to learn or something. I don't know. But I mean, it was the Zurich Polytechnic School he got expelled from. And because he wasn't capable, I guess, of learning, or he wasn't catching on quick enough. Who knows? But obviously for some reason he didn't have what somebody determined was what was normal progress, or it's Albert Einstein we're talking about. So there's lots of people in life that have been marginalized, people that we now know and celebrate, that have been marginalized at some point in their life, or rejected, or discredited, mocked, laughed at, and we now celebrate their accomplishments and what they've given to the world. And we've all had that experience, right? We've all been at some point mocked or laughed at or ridiculed, marginalized, that kind of thing. And so this last week and today, why I'm putting this out there is because, whether somebody calls you an idiot, or that you're stupid, or that you're weird or odd or different or something like that, to take that to heart, if we take that to heart too much, what somebody else is determining for us, could have us fall short of our destiny that God has for us. We're not tuned in as much to who God made us to be, as much as who someone else or who the crowd would like us or prefer us to be, because for whatever reason we make them uncomfortable, or we stand out in a way that embarrasses them or something like that, or makes them just jealous a lot of the time. I think that's a lot of what it is people just get jealous and or threatened in some way, and so they'll throw out these labels like weird and odd and things like that. And I want to encourage people to be odd if you're odd, or embrace it. And again, I'm not talking about that you sort of like become this self-centered, well, I'm gonna be me and do whatever I want, and the rest of you just need to get over yourself. I don't mean it like that. I mean that you have an innate sense of things that you want to be and do in your life and bring to the world. And when you look at these examples I've mentioned, they're just the ones that pressed through and did it. They're normal just like us. They have the same experiences as us. Maybe more skill in certain areas, or intellect, obviously. But they're just ordinary human beings. And they could have been nobody had they not pressed through, because people shut them down telling them they were weird. And that makes me think about how many of us, how many people have there been already that could have brought something amazing to the world that God had for them, but because they were labeled as weird or different or odd, they shut themselves down. And I know that it's true that in certain conversations or whatever, that there are people who can be aggressive or whatever, and and you feel yourself shutting down. But I think the responsibility or the onus is on ourselves. If I shut down, it's me that's doing it. And being weird and being a little bit different then is something that I got to take responsibility for, and not let other people tag me or label me. I don't mean me, Jim Sim. I mean whoever. If the royal family would say one. One must not let oneself be tagged by other people as being weird. See, that was weird that I just did that. But I think that the onus or responsibility is on ourselves to embrace that innate sense of destiny and calling and gifting that we have, and bring it to the world. Because as I mentioned with all these people earlier, that's exactly what we did, and we love them for it. And we're not doing it to get people to love us. We're doing it because I think it was, who was it that said it? It was, I always get this confused. Frederick Buechner or what's his name? The Augustine. Right, those are two people that you confuse a lot. Said, the glory of God is man fully alive. That's it. See that? The glory of God is man fully alive. So God gets glorified when we embrace this thing in us that would maybe make us weird, make us different to everybody else. And it should be obvious that we're different anyway, but somehow we just feel pressure, don't we, to squeeze into the mold of what crowds want, or maybe parents want, or how our spouse wants, or even what our kids want. I've got a grandbaby now, and so I have adult kids, and it seems like there's lots of opportunities to embarrass them, and you can get squeezed into suiting what everybody else wants you to be. And again, I'm not saying just kind of who cares what anybody else thinks. It's important how other people experience us, but it's not the primary motivation we have for doing what we do and living the life that God has destined us to live. We need to be distinct, and we are distinct. Each individual is distinct. I mean, there's some Psalms about this. I think it's Psalm 139 that talks about, in the Passion Translation, it says, "You knew who you created me to be before I became me." And I just think that's a beautiful way to put it. God has a blueprint for us that makes us distinct from any other human being on the planet. And I want to read this little quote. It's from Alan Ashley Pitt, who I've never met, but I read this quote years ago in my high school. It was on the wall, and I've kept it since then. And it's about being distinct. And it says this: if you follow the crowd, you will likely get no further than the crowd. If you walk alone, you're likely to end up in places no one has ever been before. Being an achiever, or being different, or being weird, let's say, or creative, is not without its difficulties, for peculiarity breeds contempt. The unfortunate thing about being ahead of your time is that when people finally realize you were right, they'll simply say it was obvious to everyone all along. Well, that would be the Einstein example, right? You have two choices in life. You can dissolve into the mainstream, or you can choose to become an achiever and be distinct. To be distinct, you must be different. To be different, you must strive to be what no one else but you can be. I think that's really puts it really well. And the main thing in all this, why I think this is important, is because if we want to experience God more, which is my goal, and which is the goal of doing these little things to help people encounter and experience God more. If you're going to do that, you've got to be able to be you. God is a God of truth, and so you have to bring you to the table when you're going to have that encounter. In any relationship, you want people to know you for who you are, or they don't really know you, and therefore they don't really love you, because they how could they? They don't know the real you. It's the same with God. You want to bring the real you to the table so that you can experience and encounter God more. It's called being authentic, being genuine, and God is genuine and authentic. Of course, a God of truth. So, in wanting to experience in God, we have to be willing to be distinct, and that might mean doing some things to experience Him in a way that nobody else has done, and it might make you look odd. It might make you stand out a little bit. And I'm willing to do it, and I hope that you are too, and I want to encourage you to do it. If not, try some new things. Start with get a new version of the Bible if you're hopefully reading the Bible. Get out of the box of just doing the same patterns all the time. Pray a bit differently. Pray louder. pray lying down, pray kneeling down, raise your hands, clap your hands, shout a little bit, whistle, go for a walk, or go start a new hobby. I don't know, talk to plants or something. Bless the plant. I don't know. I'm being a bit crazy there, but just find a way. Even take some risks of doing something, and later go, well, that didn't really work. But in trying to encounter God, take some risks to do something you never done before. I mean, I when we lived in Panama for a few years, when we first got there, we lived in this mountain range, and I went for a walk to pray for the town, and I had this staff with me, and I had my hiking boots on and all that. And I went to, I was going there hoping to change the culture of this town and all that for Jesus. And I was walking and looking down this valley over the village, and I had this staff, and the Lord, I believe, spoke to me, said, raise your staff up like, Moses and Aaron did, or Aaron really is the one with the staff, right? And just bless the town. And I was looking around thinking, like, well, people see me doing this, they'll think I'm a weirdo. And all it was lifting a stick in the air. And so sometimes I pray for miracles, and you probably do too. And you want to see miraculous things and experience great things with God, and yet we're not even willing to take a little step of doing something like lift a stick up in the air while you pray, or kneel down in church or something, or sing a bit louder. We get like, you get all like, I'm going to look like a weirdo. Well, if that's the case, we're probably limiting what we're going to experiencing. Well, not probably about it. We're going to limit what we're going to experience with God. And the Bible is, replete with people doing things that nobody had done before, that at the time would have made them stand out and kind of go it alone. And Moses and Aaron, of course, being prime examples that I just mentioned. So anyway, let me put a lid on it and say that God will redeem even the weird stuff that we try in taking risks to encounter Him. But it's a willingness to have the humility to show our weakness and that we need Him by pushing ourselves into different ways of experiencing Him. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says that His grace is sufficient for us, and that when we're weak, we're strong. So even in the weak moments, even in those feeble attempts, God's grace will come to us and give us strength and bless us, and He's going to relate to us out of His goodness and His kindness, not out of ours. But He sees a willing heart and a humble heart. And I want to encourage you, take the chance to be weird and then be weirder for the pursuit and the confidence that God will meet you. Not to be weird just for the sake of it, but because it's inevitable. Because we're going to engage in the supernatural, and just that word itself, right? Something out of the natural, different, odd, peculiar, distinct. God has distinct encounters in mind for your life and for mine. So let's push ourselves out there and go get it. All right. So that's that pretty much. Let me finish by saying this. You can find out more about stuff that I do, teaching and what have you, on my website, jimsim.org. I have a Real Freedom e-course there, blogs and stuff like that. Social media, you find me at I am Jim Sim. And if there's a subscribe button on here, you can hit that and it'll give you a wee notification to tell you next time that I'm live. But that will be on Thursday next week, 12:15 Central Standard Time. Check everything out like this on here on my Facebook page or YouTube channel. God bless you. Have a weird and wonderful week.